Welcome to Jurassic Park.
What do they got in there? King Kong?
Welcome back to the Nerd Card, and today we are talking about
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, a classic of sci-fi.
Huge classic, huge nerd classic. I mean,
it really is.
One of the original nerd themes, dinosaurs. I mean, when you're a little kid and you're that nerdy little kid, you love yourself some dinosaurs.
I know I did.
Me too.
Absolutely. And here in Michigan, we have the Cranbrook Institute where they have a big old Stegosaurus. And I saw that as a kid, and I thought that was so cool.
Oh, awesome.
And I personally saw Jurassic Park in the theater when I was 11 years old.
I saw it in the theater. I was not 11 years old. I was in high school.
That's okay.
But I saw it in the theater as well.
And it scared the ever-living crap out of me.
It did not frighten me.
From the opening scene, it's intense.
I thought it was awesome.
It's absolutely intense, though. You have to look at those scenes, and especially in the opening scene, where he's screaming, "Shoot her! Shoot her!
Right.
Shoot her!" It's such an intense moment, and there are so many scenes built within that.
Like, what is that?
Right, and
What's
you
he
don't
yelling
know.
about?
You
can't
don't see anything.
You just hear the noises.
It's so cool.
And lots of movie go boom at that point. The movie go boom throughout.
Yes. Oh, movie go boom the whole way. Yeah. Now, personally, I was watching it on the screen behind Chuck. So there was absolutely no movie go boom.
Yeah. No, there was a lot at my house.
Yeah, there was none. But you know what? That's such an iconic part of the movie, too, is, I mean, even the ripples in the water as the T-Rex is approaching. It's so cool.
Anybody hear that? It's an impact tremor is what it is. I'm fairly alarmed here.
Must go faster.
Must go faster. There's so many moments like that within the movie.
Yeah. That are all iconic, absolutely.
And at this point, they are all iconic.
That is one big pile of shit.
In fact, Jurassic Park, prior to the release of Avatar, was the #1 grossing movie of all time.
Know.
Yes. And then it went Jurassic Park, Avatar, Endgame, Avatar. Kinda.
And still.
Endgame
cheated anyway.
Endgame cheated, but so did Avatar. And that's
right.
it is.
You
what
ain't
it
cheating,
is.
you ain't trying. That's what they say in sports, right?
I suppose that is what they say. Yes. So, all right. Couple of things I want to get to. I want to hide them from Chuck because
I got a big old list.
I got some cool stuff. I took notes yesterday while I was watching this, and I'm really excited about it. First and foremost, of course, Shooter, the Shooter. I thought it was such a cool scene, and it's
Shooter McGavin.
No, not Shooter.
Okay.
But I thought it was such a cool scene because you didn't see anything,
right?
And you were still terrified,
for sure.
It's so cool. But what I want to jump ahead to is John Hammond.
Mm-hmm.
John Hammond's entrance.
No expense.
And he says that so many times throughout the films.
We spared no expense.
All the time.
Spare no expense. Spare no expense.
Even when he said, spare no expense.
Spared no expense.
Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic Park and a smattering of other things. Maybe we can have a scroll of his books. I mean, it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah. Was.
Was. He wrote John Hammond as a dark Walt Disney. He wanted John Hammond to be Walt Disney, but with death.
I mean, really, Walt Disney is actually kind of dark if you know Walt Disney's history.
Well,
so,
no doubt about that. We're not getting into that. Don't sue us, Mouse House. Don't worry about it. All right?
I'm just saying.
But yeah, and John Hammond absolutely comes across as that.
Yeah.
Dark Walt Disney because he is literally Walt Disney, but with, things that can kill you. But his enthusiasm, he's constantly driven, and he is the issue in Jurassic Park. John Hammond, it could be made a case that he is the villain in Jurassic Park.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ian Malcolm will tell you that he didn't stop to think about the consequences. He just stood on the shoulders of others and didn't think if he should do it.
It says it in one of the opening scenes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he says it more than once, probably.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
I mean, he was very, very much adamant that was not the right thing to do.
Right.
And clearly it wasn't, if you've seen the film.
Or
read
any
the book.
Or any of the films.
Any of them. Yeah, I mean, to have the arrogance. I mean, and you're right, a lot of it is clearly about John Hammond's arrogance.
Yeah.
To think that you should recreate something that was extinct 65 million years ago? Why is that a good idea?
There's a particular scene where John Hammond is
cool. Boy, it's a good idea.
Right, exactly. There's a particular scene where John Hammond is sitting there eating ice cream. Mm-hmm. Because it's about to spoil.
Talking about his flea circus.
Yeah, all the power's out.
Yeah.
And he's sitting across from
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern. And the conversation he's having, he's talking about the flea circus and, you know, how things could have gone so much better with the park. And his response to the park not working and his grandchildren being in danger is, well, now we know the problems. Now we can fix them. Now we can move forward.
Yeah, he's not concerned about his grandkids at all until it gets real bad.
Right.
You know,
and that's
like
an
power's
amazing
out and
thing.
dinosaurs are running around. Now he's worried.
Right. Well, now we know the issues. Now we can fix them. But until it's really, really bad.
Now, eventually, you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right? Hello? Hello? Yes?
A statement provided by Dr.
Ian
Malcolm.
The best Jeff Goldblum.
I really hate that man.
I don't. I love Jeff Goldblum.
Well, yeah, Jeff Goldblum is a national treasure, but there are so many great actors in this movie. I mean, you got Sam Neill, who, by all accounts, is the main character. In this,
and he's
Dr.
the lead
Alan
in this
Grant.
movie.
Yeah. You have Laura Dern.
Yep.
Who is spectacular. You have Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
You have David Attenborough.
Yep.
You have Wayne Knight. You have Newman.
Didn't say
there.
the magic word.
You've got Samuel L. Nick Fury Jackson.
Yeah.
All
as a tech nerd.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so cool to see him in there.
I hate this hacker shit.
And he does say that.
He doesn't drop one F-bomb in that whole movie.
No, well, you know he wanted to.
Oh, well, you know. Yeah.
I'm so sick of these
MFing
dinosaurs
I bet you when that dinosaur ate him,
MFing island.
I bet you he dropped the F-bomb then. We didn't get to see it, but I bet he did.
Oh, I'm sure he did. Yeah. He must have. Well, you also have a few relatively obscure actors in this, one of which being B.D. Wong.
Yeah.
Actually plays a scientist in the opening scene. Now, B.D. Wong thought he was coming in for a much larger role because, as you know, in the book, his scientist is a much larger role. But he was in there for one day and gone, and that's it.
And thus far though, he is in the new movies.
Yes, he's one of very few in the new movies. As you may or may not know, Jurassic Park is not something that has survived generally.
No, it's got a bad track record.
It does have a bad track record.
Not a park. I wouldn't recommend it. It would get like 1 star.
I wouldn't either. And going with Dr. Alan Grant's statement, Mr. Hammond, on further consideration, I would not endorse your park.
Neither would I.
I wouldn't either. Although I will say I would be, take the carnivores out of it. Take the Tyrannosaurus, take the raptor.
It's not as cool.
It's still as cool. Are you kidding me? You could sit there and look at the major reveal of the dinosaurs in the movie.
Yeah, it's a Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, whatever you want to call it.
The first reveal of the dinosaurs in that movie is astounding.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You feel it.
But you can't have them open up with them hanging out and there's a T-Rex to say, what's up?
Well, no, of course
not. I mean, it's not gonna work that way. They're predators, which is what Crichton was trying to get at.
Yes, exactly.
Part of it, why? Well, should you do this? 65 million year old predators, and you introduce them to today's society. Probably not a good idea.
It's not gonna be good. Exactly.
I mean, there are some things that I wonder, thinking into it, which not to think too deep, but would the atmosphere even be hospitable for them to be able to breathe?
It's possible.
I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm not that scientist to know that.
Sure,
that's a small thing.
Yeah.
But Crichton, I know Michael Crichton did a lot of research. If you've read any Michael Crichton books, I've read several of them. At the back of most of his books, he's got appendices of all the research that he did.
Extensive research,
because
yes.
all of his topics, he didn't write anything about mundane stuff. Everything was some kind of scientific or cutting edge kind of idea, and he would research them, as you said, extensively before he wrote the books.
Absolutely. And those little things make their way into not only the books but the films as well. Yeah. And one great example of that is when they are descending into Jurassic Park, that big shot of the waterfall,
yeah.
of the helicopter coming down, and
with
all
chaos
of that.
theory introduced in the first few minutes of the movie.
Yes, chaos theory is introduced, but a really cool part of that scene is that they are all trying to buckle up.
Yeah.
And Alan Grant cannot buckle up because he has 2 female ends.
Yeah, just like the dinosaurs, but they find a way.
And he ties them up. Oh, and I hit my mic, sorry. He ties them up. He ties himself. He found a way.
Yep.
He had 2 female ends. He found a way.
And Ian Malcolm loves it. You can see it on his face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see that little bit of foreshadowing.
Absolutely.
That, I mean, I know as an 11-year-old kid watching it for the first time.
Didn't get that.
I did not get that. But watching it as an adult.
Oh, absolutely. It's very clear.
It's very, very clear. Hey, 2 females, and you tie it together, and then you found a way.
I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Life finds a way. Jeff Goldblum's been on record as saying "Life finds a way" is his favorite line in that movie, and I mean it.
He's
holds
wielding.
up.
He tells him he's wielding the power of genetics, which is the most powerful force on the planet.
Yeah,
and he wields it like a kid who found a gun.
Right.
And it's a very true statement. They are very reckless.
It's a very accurate
in all reality.
analogy.
Imagine if that actually was done in the real world, that would be.
I think the scariest thing of that is
horrible.
It could be. At this point, they have actually found soft tissue and DNA. Yeah. They could potentially make that happen.
Maybe. I don't know if the tech's that advanced, but it's maybe potential.
Listen, I think 5 movies worth of don't do that is enough to not do it. But
people see. Do I have to talk about the Terminator again? People keep still pursuing AI, so no, they don't learn.
That's a good point. We did talk about that.
InGen is just like Monarch; they don't learn.
That's correct. We did talk about that in excess with the Godzilla vs. Kong movie.
Well, and that's part of it. A lot of these franchises, you keep trying to do things that you shouldn't do, and that's part of the ego, part of the arrogance of the human condition, is you think that no, I'll be able to control it.
No, it'll
maybe
be fine.
They couldn't do it, but I can do it.
It's the control.
Control. You must gain control.
And that goes back to that scene that we were talking about with John Hammond talking to Laura Dern's character. Yep. And he says that it's a matter of control, and we have the control, and now we can get the control because we know what the problem is, and it's just a big issue. One thing I really want to touch on with the Jurassic Park movies is the use of, or the combination, I should say, of both practical effects and CGI.
Yeah.
It's
always the best mix.
It's such an amazing mix, too.
Yeah.
In the entire movie, and I was shocked to find this out. I did this on IMDb. I'm not some savant and knew all of this. Listen, shush. Covering this
I'm
up.
not looking at your list.
Don't look at my list.
I don't want to look at your list. I'm good.
15 total minutes of dinosaurs in the entire film.
That's interesting.
15 total minutes. Do you know how many of those minutes are CGI and how many are practical effects?
I could only guess. I'm going to say 12 minutes practical effects.
You're very close. Very close. It is 9 total minutes of practical effects, and that's the Tyrannosaurus, which they actually built, and is so cool.
Oh, I bet.
So cool. And they, there's more stories about that in a second, but 9 minutes of practical effects, which the T-Rex and the Raptors, and 6 minutes of CGI. And that's it.
I believe it.
In the entire movie. But it is the entirety of the movie. Those 15 minutes make the entire movie.
Well, I mean, is it an Industrial Light and Magic movie?
You bet it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's Spielberg. I'm sure George was in that.
So that brings me to
producing credits somewhere.
That brings me to my last point. actually, Jurassic Park was overseen by George Lucas because it was done by Industrial Light and Magic. And as he was in post-production for Jurassic Park, he decided that the effects were finally good enough, and he was going to produce the prequels.
Ah, interesting.
That's the one fact I wanted to drop on you, and I'm so glad that I didn't do that. We went out and had dinner, and I was jabbering off at the mouth. I really, really didn't want to drop that fact, and I did.
I didn't know it, so that's good.
So yes, because of Jurassic Park, we have the Star Wars prequels.
Which then led to the sequels and the expanding universe and everything else.
Yes, it did. So Jurassic Park holds a firm place in sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
That is just... it's a remarkable film. And it holds up so well.
It does, and part of that too is because it's such a great foundation material. You know, the novel.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, there's a couple differences from the novel. The kids are kind of flip-flopped a little bit,
right? And they're kind of merged.
Yeah,
their personalities within the novel.
Right, and you know, in Jurassic Park 2 is actually the beginning of the first Jurassic Park book, the Lost World movie.
That is correct.
And in the book, Hammond doesn't make it.
Neither does Malcolm.
Right.
I mean, just about everybody dies in the book.
And that's one thing they didn't have much of in the... And they did have them in the Lost World, but in the Jurassic Park, the original movie, they don't talk about really compies, and compies were a huge part of the book.
That's right. In fact, that scene and a scene where a T-Rex tracks them down a river...
Well, yeah, because there's a juvenile T-Rex in the book that is not in the movie.
Right.
I think the juvenile T-Rex is actually what eats Gennaro and not the main T-Rex.
I think you're right about that.
In the book, yeah.
But those two scenes were adapted from the original novel and then put into The Last World.
Yeah.
Or Lost World, pardon me. The Lost World Jurassic Park.
Yeah. But it's, you know, Jurassic Park is one of those classic movies that's just, it's timeless.
Yeah.
It's everyone,
no doubt.
Everyone, if you're into these kind of culture, you need to see it. If you haven't seen it, I mean, we're not going to do a spoiler alert. It's been out for 30 years.
Right.
You know, or darn near 30 years.
If you have not watched Jurassic Park, what are you doing? Stop watching us. Go watch Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But it's a phenomenal. And the first movie is the best movie.
Oh, without a doubt.
In all the
without
series, right?
Yep.
I think the first Chris Pratt one is the next best one, in my humble opinion.
I agree entirely.
But the first Jurassic Park is just timeless classic. The music, I can hear the score in my head right now as we're talking about it.
And score written and performed by John Williams.
Not surprising.
The great John Williams.
I mean, Spielberg and Lucas are huge collaborators, right?
Yes.
Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones. I'm surprised Spielberg didn't direct a Star Wars. In fact, I think he was supposed to direct one of the Star Wars movies and had a conflict.
He was supposed to.
That might even been Empire Strikes Back.
It was.
And that's how they got to Irving Kershner.
That's correct.
Because George wanted somebody...
Dude's on a roll. Yeah. He's nailing it. Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Erroneous on both counts.
But when those guys get together, they make magic.
Without a doubt.
And
they really do.
We're the beneficiaries of that, you know, and this is another example. You know, every kid, like I said, going back to my first point, every kid growing up wanted dinosaurs.
Yep.
Wanted to have a dinosaur.
Oh, of course.
You know, and then you see Jurassic Park that you really don't want one. They won't fetch, as Wayne Knight found out.
Stupid.
That's one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. I'm going to run you over when I get back up here. You know,
Wayne Knight is amazing in that movie.
He is great in that movie. Dotson. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, it's a great film. Started my love for Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, of course.
That carries on to this day in Thor Ragnarok and anything he does. His special on Disney Plus. Watch that if you haven't seen it.
Jeff Goldblum doesn't play any characters. Jeff Goldblum goes on screen and plays himself.
He's great.
Yes. In every movie. And interesting point. Actually, we saw Must Go Faster in Jurassic Park, but that line was added to Independence Day just because the director liked it in Jurassic Park.
You're obsessed with fat ladies. Yeah. But anyway.
Yes, indeed. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up Jurassic Park. We will be revisiting this particular franchise with Jurassic World entries and the other entries. But we'd like to remind you, please go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. check us out on Facebook, Instagram,
YouTube,
Twitter,
YouTube,
SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere. Search the Nerd Card. If you can't find us, there's something wrong with you. Check us out.
What's on your nerd card?
What's on your nerd card?